various official acts. You are able to do the same thing for places. In other words, find all the documents referring to a particular place among the mass of documents. You can restrict this search to a specific place and time, therefore offering new ways of accessing information that would be totally impossible to do if you were working with a traditional catalog and regular paper records.
Did the Venetian administrators from the year 1000 even imagine that one day they would face physical limits? While paper records are efficient, it is a laborious process. 10 centuries later, we now have algorithms and software that can create connections between diverse data in order to make sense of it. And thus, another history of the Venetian Republic, one that is more subtle, more nuanced, more accurate, emerges from the enormous mass of disparate papers.
Each of the documents we have transcribed is then analyzed to search for the names of people and places. Here we have a person named Battista Nani, who is linked to several other people who have been identified by the recognition algorithm. And little by little, it forms an initial graph which is linked to this particular document. The same process is repeated for others, such as tax declarations, for example. Here, Battista Nani is connected to other people. When we have extracted all the data, we can then gather all the information available on a particular person. In this way, we can create this large graph that forms something like a Facebook of the past. It will only continue to grow as we digitize and analyze the archives.
Battista Nani, whose name and life had been buried in a sea of paper, has been revived. Now, Venetians from the past are no longer immersed in an anonymous crowd, but become individual, interacting destinies that have fashioned history.
One of the great strengths of the Venice archives is that there is so much documentation on the microhistory. In other words, the history of all the Venetians and not merely the major figures. This forms the dense fabric of history with a capital H, the history we study. And I truly hope that in the future, historians looking back at our era, perhaps in 100 years or 200 years, will have available a sufficient amount of data to reconstruct our contemporary era with the same density. It is not so much the fragility of the hard drives of the future. What matters is our ability to set up procedures to encode, recode, transmit, and perpetuate over all these years the data we will have created.
In our time, we are gathering the same type of individual and collective information that were collected over the centuries by the Venetians, along with the data produced by major research laboratories, that of administrations, plus Facebook, Twitter, and other social networks. If we do not have instruments capable of navigating through this mass of information, they will be hard to consult, just like the paper archives prior to the development of the Venice time machine. These new navigational tools already exist. In the United States, IBM has developed an ultra-powerful interface called Watson. With its algorithms, this supercomputer can analyze and retrieve 200 million pages in 3 seconds. In the near future, we may have an interface on our computers or our mobile phones that will have enough computing power to be something of an additional memory device. At present, our memory is an interconnected mass memory that can be consulted constantly, in which, despite the fragility of the current media, will keep information available.
Pendant très longtemps,
For a very long time, we have been afraid of falling into oblivion. It's the fear of death, the idea that we are going to disappear. Memory is a way of holding on to time and, in a certain way, avoiding death. Because now the question of retaining thought, retaining the memories that we have of a person, of a country, or of some history, is now a needless fear, because we can conserve everything with digital memory. But keeping everything now raises an entirely new set of questions for the history of humankind.